system failure on a scale we haven't seen it before. And yet, and it might sound a bit blasphemous, but the opportunity space that is opening up before us is immense. A chance to remodel, to reimagine, to redesign the very fabric of our world. And Obama's kind of grabbed that, hasn't he, with the audacity of hope, the audacity to think that out of this crisis there can be such immense opportunity. Yesterday, I found myself in the West Bank, in Gaza. And there's meltdown there. No one can deny that. But out of chaos and destruction and fear comes extraordinary capacities for hope and imagination. An Israeli, a Palestinian, who found themselves on the web and began blogging. And as they talked, the world watched. And as they talked some more, they realized they should convene a village square of their friends from either side of that conflict. And I found myself staying in an amazing hotel called Everest. There was no one else there. There was 150 rooms, but it was on the border, in a strange no man's land, with a wall being built, but they can't quite decide which side of this hotel to run the wall. So for the time being, it's one of the few places where both sides can meet. And there they were, Palestinians and Israelis, in a new kind of conversation. And I think that's the opportunity we have before us, to engage in a new quality of conversation around the future of commerce. If I may, I wanted to share a bit of a no-frills story. It starts not a million miles away from here, because as I was graduating from university with a bunch of mates, looking at the world of work didn't fill us with all that much hope. So the milk round of universities with the PwCs and the Microsofts, where they come and tell you about working for the brightest and the best, and having the fattest salaries, and they paint a picture of success which didn't entirely inspire. On the web at the time, there was this little film circulating which seemed to capture a notion of success which was beginning to lose its appeal.
I have 4 words for you. I love this company. Yes!
So, the kind of epitome of a notion of success which didn't appeal. And there we were as kind of 20-somethings wondering how the hell we were going to earn a living and pay off our student debts, while at the same time having a bit of an impact on the planet, doing more good than damage. And so while the big companies, Microsoft and PwCs, were doing their tour of universities on their milk round, and on the other hand, with all disrespect to them, the charities were doing their kind of alternative careers fairs, and neither appealed. So faced with the question of, well, what does a rather more exciting notion of success looked like, a bunch of us decided that we had to play these guys at their own game. So, rather cheekily, we launched our own spoof company. It was called Space PLC. And Space PLC managed to wing its way around the UK's best universities, printing glossy brochures about our careers evening, hiring the fancy hotels and putting on the wine. And we also hired an actor to play the role of CEO. So we'd land up here, down the road, Cambridge, Oxford, around the country, and put on the glitziest careers event that anyone had really experienced. And to our surprise, there were queues outside the door, people in their suits wanting a job with Space PLC. And the evening opened with a dramatic presentation from our CEO, who talked about, if you're tall, dark, handsome, and consider yourself number one, then your chances of working with Space PLC are very bright indeed. But of course, this parody began to disintegrate. And the real purpose of Space PLC was to open up a different quality of space. The opportunity to have conversations that most of us don't dare have. The quality of conversations that our Palestinian Israeli friends were having that seemed unimaginable. But at Space PLC, people were beginning to talk about, okay, what is it like to break away from the mainstream? To jump ship and start the ethical business of our dreams. To transform the food industry, the energy business, to launch the ethical fashion label, to pioneer the next innovation in renewable technology. So conversation flowed, people scribbled on tablecloths, but there was one minor little problem. We'd had the audacity to open up space, but we didn't yet have enough proof that this world was possible. And most people stayed, but a few people left in complete disgust that we'd got them under false pretenses. Most people stayed. But there was one guy that stayed at our UCL event and wrote in huge letters on the tablecloth, "Love it, but prove it. Prove that it's possible." And we took it to heart. So we wrote a one-line, cheeky little letter to Penguin saying, "We've got a book that might just change the world of careers forever." Of course, it was a bit too audacious, but they did meet us for lunch. And they agreed that we could run around the country finding stories of people that inspired us, people that had either stayed inside the mainstream and found the courage to challenge the values and ethics of Shell or PwC, but also those that had jumped ship and had managed to muster together the finance to start their own sustainable business.